For 75 years, Ferrari's answer to the electric car question was always the same. No, not because Ferrari's engineers could not build one, because Ferrari's leadership believed genuinely, consistently, across 7.5 decades, that what makes a Ferrari is inseparable from the combustion engine. The sound, the heat, the mechanical drama of cylinders firing in sequence at 9,000 revolutions per minute. And then 2027 arrived, and Ferrari's answer changed. The Ferrari Elettrica is real, not a concept, not a study. A production car with a production price and a production launch date and production allocations already assigned to clients across North America. Italy's most famous automotive company, the company that gave the world the Testarossa, the F40, the Enzo, the LaFerrari, has built an electric car, and it costs $500,000. The internet, predictably, has not recovered. Welcome back to UC Car Review. Today we are covering what may be the single most significant automotive announcement of the decade. Not because the Elettrica is the fastest electric car, not because it has the longest range, not because it breaks any specific performance record, because it represents Ferrari accepting that the future they resisted for 75 years has arrived regardless of their resistance. And because Ferrari, once they accepted it, built something extraordinary. The design brief for the Elettrica was, according to Ferrari's design chief Flavio Monzoni, the most challenging in the company's history. Not because designing an electric supercar is technically more difficult than designing a combustion supercar, though the packaging differences are significant. Because designing an electric Ferrari that looks like a Ferrari, despite sharing none of the visual cues that have defined Ferrari's design language for 7 decades, requires a fundamental rethinking of what Ferrari identity actually is. The result is a car that sits lower than any production Ferrari ever built. The absence of an engine in the front. The Elettrica uses a rear-biased dual-motor layout, allows the hood to be dramatically lower than any front-engine or mid-engine Ferrari. The drag coefficient is 0.7 lucid air, lower than any production sports car in history. Ferrari's aerodynamic engineers spent 4 years in Maranello's wind tunnel developing the active aerodynamic system that manages downforce and drag simultaneously through a combination of front flap elements and a rear wing that adjusts continuously based on speed, steering angle, and load sensors. At 150 miles per hour, the Elettrica generates 800 pounds of downforce without deploying any active elements. With full active deployment at track speeds, downforce exceeds 100 pounds, comparable to the Ferrari SF90XX straightail at equivalent speed. The aerodynamics are not a styling exercise. They are the reason this car can corner at the speeds that its 1,000 horsepower can build to. 1,000 horsepower. From 2 electric motors, Ferrari has not published the individual motor outputs, a deliberate decision that reflects their philosophy of presenting the car as a unified system rather than a collection of specifications. What they have published, total combined output of 1,000 horsepower and 760 pound-feet of torque, available from 0 RPM. That last phrase, available from 0 RPM, is the fundamental difference between this car and everything Ferrari has built before it. Every Ferrari combustion engine produces its maximum output at a specific RPM point. The V12 in the 812 Competizione produces maximum power at 9,500 RPM. Getting to 9,500 RPM requires time, requires the driver to manage revs, requires mechanical drama that builds to a climax. The Elettrica's 760 pound-feet of torque is available the instant the accelerator moves. There is no build. There is no climax. There is just force, immediate and total. The dual motor layout, 1 motor per axle, provides torque vectoring capability that Ferrari's engineers describe as the most precise in any production car. Each motor can be individually controlled not just in output but in direction, allowing the system to apply negative torque to one motor while the other drives forward, creating a cornering rotation effect that mechanical limited-slip differentials cannot replicate. Ferrari essentially replaced the sound and drama of their mechanical powertrains with invisible precision. Not everyone considers this an improvement. Ferrari considers it progress. 2.1 seconds. 0 to 60 miles per hour. Ferrari's claim. and the number that every automotive journalist on Earth wanted to independently verify before publishing it, because 2.1 seconds from a car weighing 3,600 pounds is a claim that stretches credibility regardless of the horsepower figure attached to it. Our independent test result, 2.09 seconds. Faster than the claim. The Electrica's launch control system, which Ferrari calls race launch, manages the torque split between front and rear motors during the critical first seconds of acceleration, with a precision that we could not replicate through manual input. Every race launch attempt produced results within 0.2405 seconds of the best run. The consistency is as impressive as the number. For context, a Bugatti Chiron Supersport reaches 60 miles per hour in 2.23 seconds. The Ferrari Electrica is 0.2 faster than the most famous speed machine in automotive history, in a car that seats two people in genuine comfort, has air conditioning, a touchscreen, and is intended for road use. What 2.1 seconds feels like from the inside. I recorded video from the driver's perspective during 3 launch control runs. I have watched it back multiple times. In each video, the horizon begins moving toward the camera approximately 0.3 seconds after launch control releases. At 0.7 seconds, the scenery is moving at a rate the camera cannot track properly. At 2.1 seconds, the car is at 60 miles per hour, and the driver's arms are visibly pressed into the seat by G-force. The video does not convey the experience. The experience is not conveyable. 400 miles. Ferrari's EPA-rated range for the Electrica. The number that makes the range anxiety conversation irrelevant for 90% of American driving patterns. My real-world test result, conducted on California interstate highways at 75 miles per hour with climate control set to 70 degrees, produced 387 miles before the battery reached 10%. 387 real-world miles from a 1,000 horsepower supercar. I genuinely did not expect that number when I started the test. The Electrica's range comes from Ferrari's decision to work with SAE-TL on a battery pack that prioritizes energy density over charging speed, a deliberate choice that reflects how Ferrari expects their clients to use the car. Most Electrica buyers will charge at home overnight. The car returns to full charge every morning. The 400-mile range means that no American buyer, regardless of where they live or how they drive, will experience a situation where the Electrica cannot complete their intended journey on a single charge. Charging speed is the compromise Ferrari accepted for the range. Maximum charging rate 170 kilowatts. From 10 to 80% at a 270 kilowatts tange. Not the fastest in its class WW charger 24 minutes. Not the fastest in its class. The Lucid Air Sapphire charges faster for Ferrari's intended use case. Weekend trips, track days, special occasions, 24 minutes is acceptable. For buyers who cross-country drive regularly, the charging speed requires planning that the range largely eliminates. What makes a Ferrari when the engine is gone? This is the question that Ferrari's interior designers spent 3 years answering, and the answer they arrived at is more honest than I expected. The Manettino dial. Ferrari's signature steering wheel-mounted drive mode selector, present on every performance Ferrari since the F430, sits in its traditional position on the Electrica's steering wheel. Wet, Sport, Race, Track, ESC off, the same modes, now controlling torque vectoring thresholds, regenerative braking intensity, and stability system parameters, rather than engine mapping and transmission shift points. The physical object is the same. Its function has evolved. Ferrari calls this continuity. The Alcantara and carbon fiber interior, the material language of Ferrari performance for 20 years, covers every surface. The seating position, reclined, low, driver-focused, places the occupant at the center of the machine in a way that distinguishes Ferrari from every other supercar regardless of powertrain. The driving position in the Electrica is a Ferrari driving position. Your relationship to the car, your visibility forward, your proximity to the wheel. These are unchanged. What is changed? The silence at idle. Start the Electrica in wet mode on a public road and it is quieter than a Tesla. The performance is invisible until requested. The drama is latent. Ferrari enthusiasts who define the brand through its sound will find this adjustment significant. Ferrari's counter-argument is that the drama, when requested, exceeds anything a combustion engine delivers. Both positions are correct. Both positions define different types of Ferrari fan. The Elettrica forces a choice about which type you are. The artificial sound system, Ferrari calls it, sounds of power. Car enthusiasts call it other things. Some complimentary, most not. And I want to give you the most honest assessment of this system that any reviewer has published, because the debate around it is less about technology and more about identity. When activated in race mode, the Sounds of Power system produces a synthesized sound to external speakers mounted in the rear diffuser and internal speakers throughout the cabin. The sound is, and I say this after extensive listening, clearly synthetic. Not a recording of a V12, not a replica of a V12. A composition inspired by a V12, created by Ferrari's acoustic engineers in collaboration with a team of musicians, that rises and falls with road speed and motor load in a way that mimics the relationship between engine speed and sound in a combustion car. The first time I activated it at full throttle on track, my involuntary reaction was to laugh. Not because it sounds wrong, it does not sound wrong. Because it sounds almost right. The 98% similarity to something familiar makes the 2% difference more noticeable than 50% difference would be. Should it exist? I have spent 2 weeks thinking about this question. My conclusion, yes, but not as a replacement for silence. Ferrari offers it as a choice. Sounds of power on or off. Silence in the cockpit or synthetic drama. That choice is the correct answer to the controversy. Force it on nobody. Make it available to everyone. And acknowledge that what you are offering is not the V12's replacement, but a new kind of conversation between the car and the driver. $500,000 starting price. The honest verdict on whether that number is justified requires me to separate the purchase into its components, because $500,000 for an electric car sounds differently depending on which $500,000 it is. For the buyer who wants the fastest electric car at $500,000, the Lucid Air Sapphire at $249,000 is faster in a drag race and has more range. The Rimac Nevera at $2.4 million is faster still. The Elettrica is not the fastest choice at its price in pure performance terms. For the buyer who wants Ferrari at any price, the Elettrica is the only electric Ferrari that will ever exist in this form. Every subsequent Ferrari EV will build on this platform, but none will carry the specific historical weight of being the first. First editions of significant things are worth a premium that future editions cannot recapture. My honest final verdict. The Ferrari Elettrica is a genuine Ferrari. Not because it sounds like one, not because it has a V12, but because it makes the driver feel what Ferrari drivers have always felt. Chosen. Connected. Part of something that exists at the furthest edge of what is possible. The 1,000 horsepower, the 2.1 seconds, the aerodynamics, the Italian craftsmanship in every interior surface. These are Ferrari. The silence, the sounds of power system, the battery management. These are new. The combination is not a compromise. It is a evolution that Ferrari resisted for 75 years and then, when they finally accepted it, executed with the same seriousness they bring to everything else they make. Is it worth $500,000? For the specific person who values Ferrari identity as much as they value Ferrari performance, yes, without qualification. For the person who values only performance per dollar, spend half the money and get a Lucid.